As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. I was born into freedom in a wonderful land of mountains and plains, rivers and lakes. Forever American is what I am. A past as rich as any can be. My father's worked hard to give this to me. I love this place I come from. To live another way I cannot foresee. As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. As an American, I've been to the peaks of majestic mountains where the air is sweet. I've watched the eagle as it soars in beautiful skies that just can't be ignored. And by this country I'll always stand, for freedom and liberty for every man. When times are hard and things get rough, America always stands ready and rough. As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. Forever American is what I am.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Real News Live. Of course, we've got a lot to talk about tonight. Democrats keep poking the bear, and the bear is poking back. That is right. The bear is poking back on more than one front. Hi, BK. Hi, Debbie Rogers. Hi, Matt. Hi, Nana. Hi, Richard. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Pam. Hi, Tia. Hi, Linda. How you doing? Hi, Lynn. Thank you guys for being here. Definitely share this out if you can. Get as many people in here as possible so we can hear what's happening tonight. Of course, that bear just keeps getting poked, and Abbott being one of those bears that was being poked about, of course, the floating barrels on the Rio Grande. And he told the president, Texas will see you in court. And of course, Texas Governor Abbott on Monday informed Biden's administration that he will not be complying with the Justice Department's request to remove the floating barrels from the Rio Grande and was prepared to battle the administration in court. Abbott's refusal comes just before the DOJ's deadline for Abbott's to comply with the government's request to remove the barrels course, the DOJ threatened legal action against Texas if the barriers were not removed by Monday at 2 p.m. Of course, if you really have it said directly, if you really care about true human life, you must enforce federal immigration laws. In the meantime, Texas will fully utilize its constitutional authority to deal with the crisis you have caused, directly to Biden, saying that Texas will see the president in court if they have to, and they have no problem fighting it. Which Assistant Attorney General Tom Kim and the U.S. Attorney General for Western District of Texas had in a letter warned Abbott that the floating barriers posed a risk to navigation as well as public safety. But let's be honest. The Rio Grande River and the humanitarian crisis that's happening is the president's fault. Texas is saying that Texas actions are violating federal law. That's not even true. Federal law means forced immigration, illegal immigration, which is illegal aliens entering the country, would be forced to be deported. You can't just override that, and yet that's what's happened. As we've seen an influx of safe havens across the country, allowing illegal immigrants to stay. I mean, the buoys that are out there cover about 100 feet in the middle of or 1,000 feet in the middle of the Rio Grande River with anchors and the riverbed. I mean, the Lone Star State is trying to secure its border in any way possible at this point. I mean, this is great. Texas needs to stand up. This is where people start standing up. I mean, the White House, of course, is threatening to veto the military construction and agricultural spending bill because they don't like the abortion cuts that are in the bill. The cuts where, of course, the government's not going to pay money for women to kill children. I don't think that's wrong. I think the government shouldn't be paying that anyways. Whether you have health insurance or not, that should be private spending. If you want to go and abort a child, the government shouldn't be paying for it. I don't care if you work for the government or anything else. The government should not. And the House and Senate being divided over the funding grows. The time left for the spending bill shrinks. I mean, watching what's happening, remote worker employees work longer and harder. That's also showing in the new study. I mean, this is crazy, though. House Democrats penned a letter to Biden on Friday urging him to assert your authority over the federal immigration policy and foreign relations and immigration. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. Watching this just utter disgrace. In other news, we're talking about America's the bumpy road ahead for the U.S. gasoline demand and energy transition. And it's going to be a bumpy road. The main reason is America's electrical grid needs a huge upgrade, and it should have been upgraded long before this was even thought of. The less effective power plants that we have in place now, and they're becoming less effective day by day, less power they can actually make because, of course, of getting off of fossil fuels or coal, and nuclear plants are being closed, but yet wind and solar, we're storing that where? We're putting that in our backpack for use at night? I don't know. There's no batteries that can ever hold the sustained power usage of the U.S. right now. Power lines, of course, way outdated because, of course, electric vehicles require more demand for electricity. We're producing less, and, of course, the lines are getting hotter, causing more damage. Meanwhile, heat waves right now up demand for electricity when the grid, of course, is making less power, is less efficient, and of course, we're using more power at all times. This push for electric vehicles is coming at the worst time possible, and we're seeing it affect the world. Distribution grids and smaller wires and poles directly connected to your home for power are not made to handle these kind of transmissions. Even the larger lines that carry electric out of the plants, called the transmission grid itself, is not made for this. The grid is basically how the electricity gets to you and how electricity is made and how the electricity is moved around. The issue is a lot of money is going to be needed. Replacing the grid and adapting it to modern day needs will cost something like $5 trillion. $5 trillion. That would include replacing lines, many of the power plants that exist, bringing everything to modern standards. I mean, this is a huge problem, especially when we're looking at facing a nuclear war. I mean, this is devastating. It's one thing after another. I mean, the new reality of this climate change and climate crisis that they keep complaining of is we're pushing for more electricity usage, more electric vehicles, more heat pumps, because it's becoming more common. Because we're forcing people to do that. And of course, moving to more sustainable sources of power like wind and solar are great. But of course, it's not sunny at night and it's not always windy outside. So storage for that power would have to be existent, and it's not. I mean, we have days on end that aren't windy or sunny. So people need to wake up. This is not going to work. And of course, people need to start speaking out about this. Because the U.S., of course, works more to push renewable resources like solar and wind. The response program, of course, that the U.S. uses in its electrical grid, cannot handle the surges to keep the grid stable. And there's going to be challenges going forward. There's going to be, of course, going to other times when the grid goes down because of nothing's perfect. But I think we're moving in the wrong direction on this whole problem right now. Let's be honest. As, of course, the U.S. gasoline demand and energy transition, this is just one of the difficulties. Forecasting the rate of gasoline demand decline, of course, is going to be another big issue, causing prices to go up and unlikely to rescale the pre-pandemic peak of 2018. So, of course, less fuel production means less fuel availability. And customers aren't stupid. I mean, customers are buying up SUVs and trucks and other gas-guzzling vehicles at record rates, knowing that those vehicles won't be available after so many years. Government's made it clear, planning on the shift to low-carbon energy and a low-carbon economy is dangerous. Complexity of interplay between transition policy, economic performance, and customer preference are making it even harder to forecast demands for oil. Oil refineries and capacities, of course, have been lowered since the pandemic. Refiners are close to capacity more quickly than demand is dropping, obviously. I mean, American motors alone consume 9% of the world's oil. And watching this trajectory is damaging of what we're facing. Less oil produced here at home means more, of course, oil coming from abroad. All this we're facing is just devastating news. The country, of course, wants to keep cutting back fossil fuel production. What does that mean for us? It means a weaker power grid. Oh, wait, we already have that. And everything else. Of course, the worst of the recession that we thought was over is just starting to show its head again. In Europe, of course, business downturn reignites recession fears once again as the Eurozone business activity shrank more than expected in July as demands for the bloc domain services industry declined. Factory output's falling at a faster pace since COVID-19 first took hold. That's right. Industries are declining and factory outputs are falling faster than when COVID-19 first took hold. If that's not troubling news, people need to realize what's happening now. And it's crazy. the decline in the broad base between even the two biggest economies, Europe and France, or Germany and France, both had fear to the block that they will slip into a recession, if not a depression at this point. And it's not just happening there, it's happening here too, and it's just slowly catching up. We watched what happened during COVID. Europe was hit long before us with the rising inflation and price hikes and everything else. It's happening again. Watching numbers and growth drop, to drastic lows. 48% of production is what they're at right now. This is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Troubling times ahead are, of course, a definite sign. The weakness and is widespread across all sectors. The manufacturing sector that, of course, is showing the most bad reading. It's pretty indicative of what's happening next. It's crazy. Price we pay is going to go up greatly. Money we have is going to go down. And that's just the beginning. Let's talk about other issues like the war in Ukraine. Let's get on this for a minute because I need to talk about some very vital information. Those depleted uranium shells that, we were bragging so much that Europe sent depleted uranium to Ukraine, and we sent cluster munitions to Ukraine and everything else, and we're sending all these high-tech weapons to Ukraine. 2 weapons depots just blew up. Guess which one of them was? One of them was these depleted uranium shells. Of course, it's depleted uranium shells that were blown up, and of course, with high explosives next to them, of course, it's going to spread this weakly radioactive material. But it is radioactive still. It's less toxic than heavy metals such as arsenic or mercury, but it's still toxic. The problem is this depleted uranium is going to release uranium for 100 years. And now it's been spread across these fields, the water they drink, the food they eat, they're breathing it in because, of course, either way, if it was used in a fight, shooting at tanks or blown up, these particles were going to be in Ukraine anyways. This is going to be a major problem. We've known for a long time military conflicts that involved depleted uranium. Major concern was inhalation, of course, from soldiers themselves, but the byproduct, the impact of these projectiles long after that. Yes, they're great at burning through armor, and the uranium oxide dust that forms when they do get used is the radioactive debris. It becomes an aerosolized product that impacts not just personnel at this point, but we're talking about widespread areas of impact by civilians. We know, of course, it affected our military personnel just back when we were in Iraq or Afghanistan. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about anything. But the massive amount of what Russia's done in the last couple of days is crazy, blowing up several ammo depots besides the 2 that for sure we know were housing cluster munitions and depleted uranium shells. There have been several others. Of course, Kiev, this all started when Kiev decided to launch Switchblade drones to Moscow and Crimea while Russian forces are bombarding Ukraine's south. As Russia's authorities have accused Ukraine of launching a drone on Moscow early Monday that saw one of its aircraft fall, or one of these aircraft, these drones, fall near the defense minister headquarters, of course, when Russia took it out. It's unleashing massive amounts of new strikes, and of course, not just on Ukrainian soldiers, but on infrastructure in the South Ukraine, especially in the port. Russia's not playing around anymore. They said, of course, we're going to retaliate, and they're doing it. Russia attacked Ukraine's grain terminals. The new wave of drone attacks that come the day after Russian strike on the damage to the historical cathedral in Ukraine. And of course, Ukraine hits targets in Moscow and Crimea. These airstrikes between Russia and Ukraine escalating sharply today, with Russia attacking, of course, the grain depot and grain terminals, as well as heavy bombardment on Ukrainian forces and a heavy wave of drones, because the wave of drones Ukraine sent to Moscow and Crimea, which we knew this was going to escalate. We knew sending Switchblade drones there. We knew this was going to be a problem. We knew the escalation that would take place. But we did it anyways. Why? I mean, people need to wake up. We sent long-range missiles, of course, that were mostly destroyed, but the Switchblade drones that we sent, hitting targets such as Moscow and Crimea, civilian targets are trying to hit them. The ones in Moscow were shot down. Now we're seeing Belarus army issuing the emergency minister to ready in case of armed conflict. So Belarus is getting fully readied right now. And of course, getting all military trained personnel to be readied to aid in defense, of course, in the armed conflict ahead of what's happening. It's just of course, this message just going through not a couple minutes ago. But watching this, of course, as the emergency minister told Belarus on Channel 1 television that employees will be ready to assist the ministry in the event of armed conflict or some kind of riot, which a significant personnel must be involved. I don't know what they're doing or what they're preparing for, but obviously we see the escalations happening right now. Yeah, we're going to get to China in a minute, but this is crazy. The escalation is happening very quickly in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. And now Moscow, of course, he strikes on Moscow today, and trying to strike Moscow and Crimea. They're just edging closer. Yeah. China, of course, not just surrounding Taiwan, but warning Japan on NATO and hopes it refrains from undermining trust in the region as everything's unfolding, not just in Ukraine, but with China as well. The Chinese embassy in Japan, of course, trying to hope that, of course, that NATO's plans to expand in the Asian Pacific won't go through because it violates, and this is very important, NATO's expansion in the Asian Pacific does violate UN rules. I'm going to say that again, whether we like it or not, it does. United Nations was there to keep the communications open. If we decide to directly violate United Nations rules and we get kicked out of the UN, there's going to be serious issues because, of course, we no longer will have the power on the world stage like that. We're already losing our power every day. But, of course, Japan, trying to get Japan to refrain from actions that will undermine the trust amongst countries in the region by siding with the U.S. and, of course, banding together. We know One China policy states that China, of course, is part of, or Taiwan is part of China. That we have a nuclear submarine in North Korea. North Korea, of course, fired 2 more missiles after the U.S. submarine arrived in the south. North Korea fired 2 ballistic missiles into the sea off the East Coast late Monday, hours after the U.S. nuclear-powered submarine arrived in naval base in the south. Of course, watching this all happen, I mean, this is crazy. We can't just push in one place. We are pushing everywhere. And of course, this will end up somewhere very quickly, as high-level Chinese delegates are now visiting North Korea. High-level Chinese delegates are traveling to North Korea this week. Official reports are coming out from Pyongyang, of course. because the Chinese Communist Party and, of course, Kim Jong-un are marking their 70th anniversary of the end of the Korean War, which, of course, we know that hasn't happened. But watching, of course, this diplomatic exchange and the escalations going on in the area, this could be very troubling. I mean, we could easily see the U.S. make a sidestep that would cause serious issues. Or China, of course, would feel provoked directly to engage with us. We haven't had any communication with North Korea since, of course, the U.S. soldier dashed over the Korean border last week. Washington, of course, trying to communicate, but, of course, sending a nuclear-armed submarine there did not help anything, causing more escalations. North Korea was already reclusive and not wanting to talk to us, but now, of course, we're escalating things. What do we expect to happen next? I mean, it's crazy. The escalations that are happening day in and day out because of the U.S. government. We know we're sending weapons to Ukraine that we shouldn't be. Russia's destroying them. So we're sending more. Every time we turn around, it's more money, more U.S. money going to foreign nations, going to immigrants, not going to our soldiers that have fought and died for this country or fought and gravely injured from this country, not going to the citizens that need it. I mean, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy, the unfolding. The Biden administration trying to sue Texas over trying to protect its border because the U.S. government's not doing anything it's supposed to be. Yeah, defense contract, that's another thing. The U.S. doesn't have personnel on the ground. The U.S. defense contractors or black ops companies are being hired as mercenaries to fight in Ukraine. And this is the strange thing because it's not just mercenaries being hired right now. Certain companies, like a company out of Europe, of course, is paying military personnel that are active duty. They're being given leave, paying these active duty military personnel that are part of NATO to fight with them in Ukraine as they're given active leave to go and do this. So whether we say we're fighting a proxy war or not, it is definite at this point that it is a proxy war. And we are trying to escalate. I mean, just watching everything unfolding. And thankfully, now we have X instead of Twitter. Ditching the bird, as Elon Musk did. Moving away from the left as much as possible by changing Twitter to X. It's crazy. Crazy scenarios happening around the world as we watch everything unfold. And we still have Biden sitting in office. Still, no charges against him. He's not impeached. He's still the leader of the New World. Ukraine is not making any gains. They've lost territory today and drastically. They were getting trained in Ukraine. They're no longer there. They've been sent back to this, as we see this summer push that was supposed to be so great, as these 70-year-olds are out there fighting for Ukraine because they're being forced to. It's ridiculous. Looming shortages, of course, are going to have bigger issues coming this year, as, of course, everything from soda to baking goods and Halloween candies will be having sugarflation. Sugar prices are on the rise and expected to increase drastically as the tight supply, coupled with weather mayhem, causing the reduction of almost 15% of sugar produced worldwide. That's globally. So that'll just be another hitch in the bucket course, U.S., of course, has nothing to do with any of this. Let's just be honest. We have everything to do with everything that's happening. But if the left wants to keep pushing, the left is going to keep pushing. And we're seeing it happen. Right on show China, North Korea, we got Iran, now Saudi Arabia working with Iran. I mean, it's just going to get worse. It's going to keep getting worse because we are pushing every button we can. I mean, the U.S. is pushing buttons against its own citizens. I mean, the left, the far left, let's put it that way, is pushing buttons against its own citizens. I mean, we still have people that are in prison with no charges from January 6th. People that speak about anything that could have possibly happened, not saying it did or did not, but could have possibly happened, are being thrown under the bus, being ran over. It's crazy. It is crazy watching this unfold, and it's a day-by-day problem. I mean, yeah, there's anti-woke candidates. It's crazy. What I would wish we could see, which I doubt we will, is a Trump and, of course, I cannot think right now, but a Trump presidency, hopefully, with a great vice president, like Junior or, Kennedy, Trump Kennedy presidency, that's it. Sorry, my back is killing me, you guys. I do not feel good. I'm going to end up signing off, but God bless you guys. Stay strong. I mean, especially everything that's unfolding. I know I hate to sound doom and gloom, but that's where we're heading. That is where we're heading. We're heading to the stuff that nobody wants to talk about, nobody wants to admit to, nobody wants to see happen. Yeah, U.S. is the most powerful carrier in the Baltic Sea. I have a big question about that because, hold on, I'm going to step into this real second. Because we've been building all these destroyers, these new platforms. Do you know that none of them are efficient? We don't even have cannons on the new destroyer platforms because the way they were built, they can't harness the cannon. They were made for energy weapons, but we don't have energy weapons yet. I mean, people need to understand we have retired a lot of actual stuff, and now we're ending up with bigger problems. And the most powerful carrier being the Baltic Sea is just ridiculous at this point because that could be destroyed very easily. And who's in charge of the White House? It's Rice. It's always been Rice. Let's be honest, if you don't think it's Rice, you're kidding yourself. But God bless you guys. God bless America. There's not 390 aircraft on any carrier in the United States fleet. But God bless you guys. God bless America. Stay strong. And pray. Pray for America, please. God bless you guys. Good night.